Welcome to K-Gimyo Night. Beyond the bright neon lights and ancient royal palaces lies a side of Korea rarely spoken of. From twisted traditional folklore to real-life unsolved tragedies and chilling modern urban legends. Tonight, we step into the shadows of the Korean peninsula. His mother collapsed for the first time in mid-May, when the barley was still green. She had been making her way to the kitchen to prepare breakfast when she crumpled at the doorstep. When Myeongsu rushed to her side, her body was already blazing like a furnace, her eyelids half rolled back to show only the whites. The village physician came. After a long while of pressing her pulse and clicking his tongue, he drew Myeongsu out to the courtyard. It's a mysterious illness. A mysterious illness? In 30 years of practicing medicine, I have never seen symptoms like these. Fever without sweat, a pulse that beats yet carries no strength. Something is gnawing at the vital energy from inside her body. The physician let his words trail away. This is beyond my skill. After the physician left, Myeongsu stood in the courtyard for a long time. The early summer sun bleached the ground white, but the cold ran straight down his spine. His father had died when Myeongsu was 12. For 15 years after that, his mother had fed him, clothed him, and put him through his studies by taking in sewing work, until her knuckles swelled and her fingertips cracked and bled. That he had earned the name of a scholar, that he had become a man who could read, was all because of these worn and weathered fingers. And now those fingers lay in the back room, drawing shallow, labored breaths. Myeongsu set out that same day. He walked and walked. He crossed into the next county in search of a renowned physician, only to come home empty-handed. He climbed mountains to find a shaman said to be gifted, only to squander his silver coins. He offered prayers at a temple and rites at a shrine. His mother's condition did not improve in the slightest. On the 60th day, deep in the foothills of Sobaek Mountain, Myeongsu found a small hermitage. And there he met an old monk. It was a face whose age could not be guessed. The wrinkles were so deep it looked like the bark of an ancient tree, and his eyes were so finely shut that one could not tell whether he was sleeping or awake. While Myeongsu laid out his circumstances, the monk sat without so much as a twitch, and when the story was done, he slowly opened his eyes. His pupils were empty. That was Myeongsu's first impression. Not clear, not deep, simply empty. Like the window of an old house where no one lived. There is one way. The monk's voice was low and dry. I will do anything. Please, just tell me. The monk did not answer at once. He studied Myeongsu for a long moment, a gaze so heavy that Myeongsu felt as though he had been placed upon a scale. Take the leg of a corpse, no more than 3 days dead. Boil it. Have your mother drink the broth. Myeongsu thought he had misheard. That would cure her? It will. But such a thing violates all human decency, to desecrate a grave, to mutilate a body. Do you wish to save her, or do you wish to keep your principles? The monk's question was short and absolute. Myeongsu fell silent. The choice is yours to make. The monk closed his eyes again. He had nothing more to say. Myeongsu left the hermitage without once looking back. He feared that if he looked back, his resolve would waver. His resolve that had already begun to waver. He waited for the moonless night, a night with no moon, a night where nothing could be seen. For doing what must not be seen, Myeongsu told himself, such a night was fitting, or tried to tell himself. In truth, for those 2 weeks, he had tried not to think clearly about what he meant to do. He drove the thoughts out, drove them out again, and got through his days that way. But the nights were another matter. In half sleep, in dreams, at the fraying edge of consciousness, a face came to him. The face of a corpse he had not yet seen, yet in Myeongsu's dreams it always had its eyes open. He knew that a new mound had been raised in the hillside cemetery behind the village 5 days ago. He'd picked it up from talk at the market. A young farmhand from the next village had died suddenly. Gone so young, so senselessly, people said. No more than 3 days dead. Myeongsu counted on his fingers. The moonless night fell on the very evening when the mound would be exactly 3 days old. It felt as though heaven itself had arranged it. That feeling frightened him more than anything. The mountain path on the moonless night was pitch black. Myeongsu took a single lantern and set out for the cemetery. At his hip hung a sickle. The cloth bundle he pressed against his chest. With each step he took, the sound of insects cut off sharply, then resumed, as though the entire mountain were watching him. At the edge of the cemetery, Myeongsu stopped. The lantern flame wavered, though there was no wind. He closed his eyes and called up his mother's face. His mother propped up on her sickbed in the back room, drawing ragged breaths. His mother with her cheekbones jutting from skin gone slack with weight loss. His mother, who welled up with tears the moment she saw him. He opened his eyes. He walked. The new mound was easy to find. Its earth was far darker than those around it. Myeongsu set the lantern on the ground and began digging with his bare hands. Soil pushed under his fingernails. His palms grew hot. At some point, his fingers struck wood, the lid of the coffin. Myeongsu worked the sickle blade into the gap. The wood made a sound like a scream, a long, grinding creak. He clenched his teeth. The lid came away. The corpse lay inside, dressed in a burial shroud, perfectly still. A young man. His eyes were closed, his face pale but undisturbed. He looked as though he were sleeping. Myeongsu felt the hand gripping the sickle begin to shake. "Forgive me," he murmured it low. There was no answer. Of course there wasn't. He squeezed his eyes shut and brought the sickle down. The bone took 2 strikes. He would never forget that sound, he thought. Not a snap, not a thud. Something harder, forced to twist and give. The flesh parting first, then the bone resisting, then what remained clinging on stubbornly before it finally gave way. He wrapped it quickly in the cloth, replaced the coffin lid, pushed the soil back in. His hands were shaking. Something warm was on his fingers. He did not look at it. Bundle tightly secured, Myeongsu began his descent. His steps were fast. The faster, the better. He had passed through the pine grove and reached the stone path when he heard it from behind him. At first he ignored it. He told himself it was some mountain creature. But the sound was wrong. It was rhythmic, like something dense striking the ground and lifting off again, like wet meat slapping against rock. Chul peo deok, chul peo deok, chul peo deok. Myeongsu's feet stopped. His heart had risen into his throat. Slowly, very slowly, he turned around. Out of the darkness between the pines, something was coming. It was beyond the reach of the lantern light, yet he could see it, the shape of it, a white burial shroud. Both arms hanging loose, shifting for balance, lurching forward on a single leg in great bounding leaps. From where the other leg had been, something dark dripped steadily to the ground. Each drop spread where it landed. It gleamed on the stones. The corpse raised its head. Its eyeballs were rolled back. Only the whites shone. Its mouth opened. "My leg!" Cracked, hoarse, the kind of voice that could never come from the throat of a living person. Nothing like any sound a living thing could make. Not air passing through. Something rotten forcing its way out. A sound that seemed to rise from underground. "Give me back my leg!" Myeongsu turned and ran. He learned that night what it truly meant to run. There were no thoughts. He could not feel his legs. Only forward, forward. His lungs were burning. His sides felt ready to split. His feet threatened to catch on stones and send him sprawling. None of it could stop him. The sound did not fade. If anything, it grew closer. On one leg, the thing was faster than Myeongsu on two. He could not understand it. He did not want to understand it. The lights of the village below came into view. He hurled himself down the slope, across a field, over a stream, along a stone wall. He did not know when the lantern had gone out. Now there was only darkness on all sides. In the darkness, only that sound. He was at the edge of the village when it happened. It was cold, not fingers. It was an entire hand, 5 fingers closing around the hem of his robe. He couldn't even scream. He wrenched himself free. The fabric tore with a sharp, ripping sound. He did not look back. The house was there. The gate was there. He threw himself into the courtyard, burst through the room door, and slammed the latch shut behind him. Silence. One beat of silence. Then it began. The sound of scratching at the door panels. Something, fingernails or bone, working its way into the wood. Not scratching, but shaving. The sound of wood growing slowly thinner. And between each stroke, the voice. "Give me my leg. Give me my leg." Not loud, not quiet. It did not wail. It simply repeated, like reciting a prayer, like chanting a charm, tireless, unbroken, endless. That was what frightened him most. Myeongsu went to the kitchen. He kindled a fire under the pot. He boiled water, took the bundle from his arms and placed it inside. Closed the lid. The flames rose. Outside, the sound went on. Myeongsu crouched before the pot and wrapped his arms around his knees. He tried to think only of his mother. Mother, mother, mother. But the scratching filled his ears. The door panels were getting thinner. 1 finger's width at a time. 1 finger's width at a time. Near dawn, the sound stopped. He opened his eyes. Day was breaking. Outside was silent. No birdsong, no wind. Just silence, as though nothing in the world existed at all. Myeongsu slowly rose to his feet. He went to the pot. Would the broth have drawn out properly? Would it be enough for his mother? The hand gripping the lid handle trembled faintly. The long night was over. It was finished now. He lifted the lid. White steam billowed up. When the steam cleared, Myeongsu stared down into the pot for a long moment. Water boiling, a few dry twigs floating at the surface, and 1 worn straw sandal. He rubbed his eyes, looked again. Twigs, a sandal. His mind went white. He thought back to the bundle he had clutched while he ran, the bundle he had gripped so tightly all the way down the mountain, the bundle he had shoved into the pot in such blind haste. In his panic the night before, he had grabbed an old bundle sitting beside his pack rather than the right one. Then, the corpse's leg, where was it? Cold flooded the room. He was standing at the pot, and the kitchen had gone cold all at once. It was midsummer, a midsummer dawn, and yet white breath misted from his lips. He raised his hand before his mouth. The vapor curled around his fingers. He could see it clearly. He raised his eyes. Beyond the kitchen door, the room was visible. The latch he had fastened was undone on its own. The door stood open a finger's width. Through that gap, darkness. The darkness was looking back at him. Myeongsu stepped into the room. His feet told him not to move, but they moved anyway. He would never have been able to explain why he walked in. He only knew, somewhere beneath thought, that there was no choice, that everything had already ended. In the corner of the room, something was there. It had not been there before. The thing in the white burial shroud sat with its knees drawn up. Its eyeballs were still rolled back, showing only white. Dried blood had spread wide across the lower half of the shroud, turned black, and where the severed leg had been, the shroud folded in upon itself so naturally, as if no leg had ever been there from the beginning. Its lips drew back. A human face cannot stretch that far. The corners of the mouth pulled all the way to the ears, and between them, teeth were visible. Too many teeth, far more than could ever fit inside a human mouth. Slowly, it raised one hand. It pointed at Myeongsu's left leg. There it is. Quiet. Nothing like the howling voice of the night before. Low and languid and satisfied, like someone who has finally found something they searched for a very long time. My leg! Myeongsu tried to scream. No sound came from his throat. His gaze fell of its own accord to his left leg. The trouser leg was flapping loosely. Empty. There was no pain. That was the strangest part. Nothing was there, and yet it did not hurt. He had not known the thing was gone until this moment. When had it happened? During those long hours of scratching at the door? In the moment he kindled the fire under the pot? Or just now? The instant their eyes met? Or perhaps from the beginning? Perhaps it had never been there from the beginning. When his thoughts reached that point, the dizziness finally came. The floor tilted. Myeongsu reached for the wall to steady himself. His hand did not find it. The thing stood up, on two legs now, wearing Myeongsu's as its own, straight and even as though nothing had happened at all. It took a step, then another, testing them. It walked one slow circuit of the room. Satisfied, it gave a single nod. It lifted the latch and opened the door. Before it left, it turned and looked back once. Those eyes, nothing but white, rested on Myeongsu. Its lips moved, as if to say something. But there were no words. The door closed. From the alley outside, footsteps receded. 2 steady footsteps, walking away clean. Myeongsu fell to the floor. His eyes stayed open. He could see the ceiling, the rafters. The light was slowly brightening. Morning was coming. Strange, he thought. So bright, and yet so cold. Why does it keep getting colder? Why does the ceiling seem to be moving further away? There was no pain. At least there was that. No pain. His eyes closed. How much time passed? From the direction of the back room came the sound of movement. A cough. Then the sound of a door opening. Myeongsu? His mother's voice. The fever had broken in the night. Her voice had strength in it. For reasons she could not explain, her body had improved markedly. She had a vague sense that her son had done something for her through the night, and she made her unsteady way across the courtyard. The room door was open. She stood at the threshold and looked inside. Myeongsu was there, lying down, eyes closed. He looked as though he were sleeping. When his mother stepped inside, her foot came down on something warm. She looked down. It was black, spread wide across the floor, not fully dried yet. Her foot sank slowly into it. Her eyes moved to Myeongsu's left side. The trouser leg lay flat against the floor. It took a long time before sound came from her lips. Her son's face was peaceful, no trace of suffering. He looked as though he were sleeping, but he was not sleeping. Where his left leg should have been, it was not cut. It was not torn. Just as though it had never been there from the beginning. No bone, no flesh, no skin. Gone cleanly, utterly, without a trace. When the villagers came running, there was no sign of anything left in the room. No bloodstains, no footprints, not a single scrap of torn burial shroud. Only at the edge of the threshold, a little dirt, mountain dirt, from the hill behind the village where the cemetery lay. No one went looking for the old monk again. When someone made the journey to where the hermitage had stood, there was nothing there, as though there had never been anything at all. The memory that something like a hermitage had existed somewhere in those foothills of Sobaek Mountain faded from the village, slowly and very naturally, over time. His mother lived a long life. Only when she called her son's name, her foot would go numb, they say. Her left foot. Her left foot. Every night.